What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fans View podcast. Now, on today's episode, if you're in the Carolina area, you've heard this name a million times. She's somebody that I've wanted to have on the podcast since I started the podcast. She is none other than the Queen City Killer herself, Clara Carter. Clara, how are you doing this
Hello.
evening?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much, first and foremost. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy woman. Um,
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. How could we not have the Queen City Killer? That might be the coolest gimmick name that I've had on so
Oh
far.
my gosh, thank you so much.
We're gonna dive into that too. But before we get too far into the Queen City Killer, I want to ask you, when did you first fall in love with professional wrestling?
Gosh, honestly, I don't remember a time where I didn't know about wrestling or I didn't watch wrestling. I have two brothers, and I remember there was one night where my older brother couldn't fall asleep. So my dad was just like flipping through the TV, just trying to find something to keep him entertained. And Shawn Michaels popped up on the TV. I don't remember who he was wrestling. I just remember it was Shawn Michaels.
Okay.
And he just left it on. My brother was 6 at the time and I was 4. I don't know why my dad thought it was a good idea to leave wrestling on the TV, but we just fell in love with it. And my brothers at the time, they liked it more than I did. And they outnumbered me. So whatever they wanted, they got. So we would just, it would be on the TV every Raw, every ECW, every SmackDown. We never missed it. And they grew out of it and I did not. And now here we are.
That. So, in your maybe early in your fandom, who were some of your favorites to watch? You said you were talking about how you watched, kind of everything. Who were
Mhm.
some of your favorites?
My all-time favorites are Shawn Michaels and Jeff Hardy. It was always them two. I don't know, my dad loved to like get us like old school ECW DVDs. I don't know why. It was the craziest thing ever. But I never had an actual favorite in ECW because I just thought it was, you know,
Mayhem.
just crazy. But it was very entertaining to watch. But it was always Jeff Hardy and Shawn Michaels for me. Women wise, it was Mickey James. I always loved her.
Okay. Your dad A sounds amazing and B out of his mind. Like, oh hey kids, here's some vintage
He's a
ECW for you to
psycho.
watch.
My mom got so mad. I still have the ECW DVD. It was like a 3 disc set, and it was like the bloodiest
Oh my
ECW match.
gosh,
Yeah, we
yes.
have that. And I was
Bloodsport.
like,
Yep.
yes, I want to say I was like 6 or 7 when we got that.
My gosh. So not only did he get you vintage ECW, literally the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with that box set. That's actually the first time I saw the barbed wire match with Sabu where he tears his bicep and yeah, duct tapes it back together. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all good on that. Um, so they were some of your favorites. Does that kind of roll over into maybe who inspired you? Obviously, we're going to get to when you kind of make that transition, but who inspired you to become a professional wrestler?
Honestly, it was the men. I hate to say it, but I never like at the time at the time, the women were portrayed very sexualized, and
Yeah.
I never was like that. Both of my parents were athletes and I was the only girl, so I was just a tomboy my whole life. So I would watch mainly the men. And it honestly was Shawn Michaels was who inspired me because I think he's the greatest of all time. I think he's phenomenal and just the way that he went out there and he gave 110% no matter what. And that really just inspired me. And I was like, I saw him with the Undertaker, both of the WrestleMania Undertaker matches, and I was like, that's the greatest thing ever.
That's a hell of a performer to try to model yourself
Oh
after.
yeah.
So, and to kind of piggyback on that, when did wrestling go from something you enjoyed watching, like you said, your brothers grew out
Mhm.
of it, and you just never did,
Mhm.
but when did it go from a hobby to like I want to do this professionally? Like this is what I want to do with my life.
So I grew up doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and wrestling was always like when you're in kindergarten and your teacher's like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I want to be a wrestler." They're like, "Oh, okay, that's cute, whatever." And I started doing jujitsu and I competed in it and I would like travel and compete and stuff. And I want to say when I got my first job when I was 16, and I would put 25% of every paycheck I got into a savings account. Because then I already told myself, I was like, I'm going to try the wrestling thing. I want to at least have the option to try. So I wanted to make sure I had money to like pay for the school, pay for gear, pay for everything. So I kind of just kept it to myself. I didn't really tell anybody. And then I graduated high school, and my jujitsu coach was like, okay, we got to like hit the ball rolling. Like, we got to start traveling out of the country, get you to bigger jujitsu competitions. And I was like, well, I kind of want to go try this pro wrestling thing. And he was like, what? So that was really awkward. But the way I saw it was, I don't want to die with regret.
Yeah.
And our jujitsu trainings was Monday through Friday.
Right.
And I would look at the clock on Mondays at 8 o'clock, and I'd be sparring, and I'd be like, damn, Monday Night Raw's on right now. But then I would be sick on a Monday, and 8 o'clock would hit, and I would watch Raw, and I would not think about jujitsu. So I was like, if my mind is always on wrestling, I gotta go with the wrestling.
I love that. I love that story. How
Yeah.
did your family feel when this, when, like you said, when your dirty little secret of you've been saving
Yeah.
up for wrestling school, it had to come to light at some point. How did the family feel?
My brothers, they were kind of like, okay, like go ahead, whatever, which is hilarious because now they started watching wrestling again, and now they think I'm the coolest person ever. But my
As they should.
dad, right, exactly. My dad thought it was. My dad is like, he doesn't show emotion at all, much like I
Hmm.
think a lot of dads. So he's just like, okay, cool. He's like, go do your thing. And then
Yeah.
my mom, she didn't want me to wrestle ever. She hated wrestling. And she really wanted me to do jujitsu. But most of all, she wanted me to be happy. And she knew that I was really happy watching wrestling. And she was like, go try it. If you like it, do it. If you don't, no worries. So,
Absolutely. I love that.
yeah.
So supportive, maybe not crazy about the idea, but supportive
Yeah, but
nonetheless.
supportive. Yeah.
Do you still train jujitsu at all?
I used to like bounce between the days I don't have wrestling, I would go to jujitsu, but I would like help my teammates like with their competition prep,
Right, right.
and I get too involved in it, and then I would want to compete again. So I'm just like, let me just step back.
Just clean break. I got you. I
Yeah.
got you. So the dirty little secret's out. Clara wants to wrestle. What school did you attend? Where did you go to?
I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time, and I drove 4.5 hours to Knoxville, Tennessee to train with Dr. Tom Pritchard.
Okay. Now, was
Hmm.
this before he teamed up with the mayor, or was
This
Kane
was
already?
They were already together. They were already
They
teamed
were
up
already
together.
together. Okay.
Yes.
Because that was going to be my next question: is who actually trained you, like the day to day? Who was in the
It
ring
was
with you?
Dr. Tom.
Okay. All
Kane
right.
was he's too busy being the mayor.
Yeah,
But
yeah. The
Doc,
mayor's the mayor.
yeah. Doc always said if he's sick and he can't do it, then nobody will do it because he doesn't want anybody touching us but him.
I love that. I mean, there's a lot of trainers in this world, but man, Dr. Tom's in the
The
top
goat.
1%.
Oh yeah.
Um, and that probably answers the next question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What led you to that school? Like you said, you lived in
Mhm.
Charlotte, it's kind of a hotbed, for professional wrestling. You throw a
Yeah.
rock, you'll hit six schools.
Hmm.
High Spots even is right there. What led
Yeah.
you all the way then to Tennessee to go to Dr. Tom's school?
My mom actually found it. She was scrolling through her Facebook one day and she found an ad for it, and she saw like she looked into it and she was like, "Oh, he trained everybody that's on TV right now."
Yeah.
So she sent it to me and I was like, "Yeah, I know Dr. Tom. Like I saw some of his stuff. I wasn't watching when he was like wrestling full time, but like
Yeah.
I knew of him, so I was like, this is perfect." In Tennessee, like I didn't have like all I had was my brothers and my mom and my dad, so I didn't have a problem like, packing up and moving. And I was
Right.
fresh out of high school and I was like, I just want to like see what this is my college experience
I was just
basically.
gonna say
So
that. It was your college
yeah.
experience, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously, you're training under one of the best guys possible. How prepared did you feel once that kind of was over and it was time to like start hitting that indie scene? You get pushed out on your butt. How prepared do you think that Dr. Tom got you for the quote unquote real world of professional wrestling?
I think he did I think I was one step ahead of a lot of people because I was trained by him.
Right.
And I don't mean that like in a arrogant type of way, but he just kept it straightforward. He kept it real. He told us everything, every nasty thing we would experience, every bad thing, but he also said every good thing. And
Yeah.
he made the worst mistake by giving me his personal phone number, because I will send him messages at 2 in the morning and I'm like, guess what happened tonight? And he will wake up in the morning and he'll be like, it is what it is, kid. So I think that he really prepared, the way that he is just so like nonchalant as a person really prepared me for the indie scene too, because he's very like just straightforward, and like if something sucks he'll be like, that sucked, it was terrible. So
I love that. Do you remember that first match when you first got out there? Can you talk about that a little bit?
oh my god, I had my first match a little bit over a month after I first started training. And I didn't feel like I was prepared at all, but Doc suggested it because there was a little indie company in Tennessee at the time and they needed a woman. And they reached out to Doc and he was like, she's ready. And I was like, that's crazy. I don't think so. But he spent so much time with me one on one preparing me for that, and it was terrible. He told me it would be terrible. I still have it on my phone and I watch it to humble myself every now and then. So
Do you remember who you worked that night?
it was Michelle Green. It was me and Honcho Hensley versus Michelle Green and God, I forgot her tag team partner's name. But he was a big Indian guy with a lot of tattoos. So that narrows it down for y'all.
That
But
yes, absolutely. Well, at least it wasn't a singles match. You really could have been fed to the
gosh.
wolves.
Yeah.
um that brings me to pull back the curtain just a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about your gimmick now? Obviously, like we said, you're the Queen City Killer, and I'm so interested to know where that came from, you know.
So that nickname came from a random announcer one night in North Carolina. I want to say I was like 6 months in, and I first started with like my MMA gimmick. And the guy came up to me and he was like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "Charlotte, North Carolina." And he just said, "Oh, the Queen City Killer." I was like, "Whoa, that was crazy." So I just kept it. But now I kind of want to like get away from like the MMA thing, because like it's just I want to respect the sport of MMA enough to like not want to, kind of like embarrass it. Yeah, yeah. So right now I'm trying to incorporate my culture more because I'm Brazilian.
Hmm.
So there's not a lot of Brazilian wrestlers, especially on the indies. So I've been trying to really incorporate my culture. I'm just a bad bitch, honestly. That's just what it is now. I'm just a bad Brazilian bitch.
I love that. Um, is it safe to say you're a heel at heart? Because I've seen a lot of your work, and you tend to. It
Yeah.
seems like you really enjoy being a heel.
Honestly, Doc made me debut as a baby face, and I was like, listen, I'm a brown girl in Tennessee. This is kind of crazy. I don't know if they'll cheer for me. And he made me be a baby face. I went to North Carolina. I wrestled for like a month in North Carolina. Then I went back to Doc for a week, and I cut a promo in front of him, and it was a heel promo. And he just looked at me and he goes, "I always knew you were a bitch." And I was like, that's crazy.
You have by far. I'm gonna say it right now. You have the best resting bitch face I've ever seen in my life, and I mean that with so much respect. Like the first time, just a little story. Like the first time I was ever exposed to you was I saw your trading card. Shout out Kayfabe Cardboard. I
Mhm.
saw your trading card, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. You signed a million of them. Just the resting bitch face you had. I was like, okay, all right. And that's when I started asking around about you, and everybody was telling me like, "Oh, that's Clara Carter. You got to check her out." Then obviously, YouTube, everything later. Here we are. But yeah, that face. Yeah,
Didn't even know I did. We were at PWF last weekend, and Dave Dawson was like throwing an idea out. And I was just sitting there. I didn't have a thought in my brain. I was just sitting there and Dave's like, "Damn, Clara, do you think it's a stupid idea or something?" I'm like, I'm just sitting here.
Oh my god, it's so much more impressive now speaking to you and getting to know you, and you're like genuinely just cheerful and nice to see that trading card, and now to put this face with it. Well, just bravo. Well done.
Thank
Well
you.
done. um, so being a product of the Carolinas, and obviously you worked a little bit in Tennessee and all over really. Do you have, and not to put down any other place, I don't want it to seem like it's an either or, but do you have like a favorite town, maybe a favorite building that you've worked in a couple times that really stands
Oh
out to you?
gosh. I'm going to New Jersey on Saturday and I'm wrestling at the Monster Factory and I love going there. It's a drive, but I
Yeah.
absolutely love going there. Their building is the coolest thing ever. They have an old school weight room as the locker room, and then they have their ring set up, and then they have shoot wrestling mats on the floor, like covering the entire gym floor, and they teach kids shoot wrestling and like pro wrestling, and I just think it's
Yeah.
so cool. And when I look at that, it just makes me like, I want to do something like that, like when I retire, have like a cool facility like that. So I love going there. Missy Sampson is also phenomenal. I love working for her. I love working for AML, obviously. It's always super fun there. Um, and Pile Driver Pro, Axton Ray owns a wrestling company in Tennessee called Pile Driver Pro, and those are really fun also.
I love that. On that same note, obviously, you haven't been in the business a long time, but
Mhm.
you've got some matches under your belt. Who are some of your favorite people, maybe one or two, that you just really enjoy being in the ring with? Whether it's that trust, whether it's the chemistry. Who are some of your favorites?
I I wrestled Camille 3 or 4 times now, and she's just a phenomenal woman. When I think of a woman, I think of her. She is a goddess. She's just so giving, and I just learn so much every time I wrestle her. I love I love wrestling Ella Envy too. When
Yes.
I first started in North Carolina, my husband hates when I tell this story because him and Ella got beef. But when I first started in North Carolina, I was thrown into a tag match and I was Ella's tag partner because her partner canceled. So I was thrown in literally day of. And all the other girls didn't want to talk to me. They were so mean to me. They were like, whatever, you're 2 months in, doesn't matter. You're not getting anything in. Ella Envy was the absolute nicest person in the world. She was an angel. She sat with me, she talked to me. And then a few months later, I did the Crockett Cup for NWA. And Ella was with me the whole time, making sure I was calm, making sure I knew what I was doing. I cannot say enough good things about her.
I love that. We've been trying to get Ella on the podcast, so maybe now we're gonna put this out on socials and maybe
Uh-huh.
butter her up a little
Tag
bit.
her, say, Ella, you gotta do it.
We're gonna get Claire on you, Envy. We're gonna do
That's
this.
right. I'll pull up to her house.
um, Something I was also pretty excited to ask you about because I know I've seen you there probably every year since you've been wrestling. It feels like, um, being in the Carolinas. Obviously, November. The end of November means one thing. It
Hmm.
means WrestleCade.
Hmm.
Um, how big of a deal do you think WrestleCade is in the sense of how much has it impacted your career, I guess, to be able to come to WrestleCade and get in front of that massive audience that
Hmm.
they've accrued over the years? How
Hmm.
helpful do you think that's been to your career specifically?
It's been so helpful. Even if I'm not wrestling and I'm just walking around, just meeting the people that you meet at WrestleCade
Yeah.
is absolutely crazy. I literally just this past WrestleCade, I was just walking around because I just got done with my signing, so I was just walking around and I wanted to get a picture with Lita, so I was waiting on Lita, and then Mick Foley was right there, so I just started talking to Mick Foley, and we had like a 20-minute conversation. It's like the craziest thing ever. Um, but it is very important to get in front of an audience like that to market yourself not only in front of fans but also in front of other workers and in front of other promoters and stuff. And the Super Show, is the most people ever. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So it always just feels like a dream whenever WrestleCade comes around.
Yeah, they fill that venue up, the Benton
Hmm.
Convention Center there in Winston Salem. And yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to ask you about. It's like, how much would you think do you think that WrestleCade has really propped up, not just your career, but I mean, and I don't want to oversell it, but WrestleCade I feel like is responsible for maybe propping up independent wrestling in North Carolina,
Hmm.
as a whole. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I remember a few years ago we did Dax Harwood versus Speedball Mike Bailey. And
Yeah,
Mike Bailey is in North Carolina a lot because of Firestar. And Dax is North Carolina homegrown,
right.
so that's crazy. And I train at AML. When I got done with Doc, I went to AML. So being homegrown AML talent and being able to like work my way up from the student show to the future star show to the main roster to then Russell Cade, like that's always so cool. And I know it's a super proud moment for Brian and Tracy because they have me, they have JAC, and we got a good solid group of trainees now. So
Yeah. Yeah, and
mhm,
that was kind of what I wanted to talk about because I mean, you have WrestleCade's not just a convention anymore. It is an event. Friday
mhm,
through Sunday. And like you said, you can almost watch your career grow
mhm,
and kind of point to like where you are in that pecking order. Are you on Ladies Night Out? Or used to be, I guess, Queens of Combat. Are you
mhm,
on the AML show? Are you on the WrestleCade Super Show? It's like
yeah,
you can really chart your progression.
mhm,
But I just wanted to talk to somebody else about WrestleCade that really understands it because
yeah.
I really don't think Brian and Tracy and all the people that work so hard for WrestleCade, they really don't get enough due,
Oh my gosh,
in these parts.
it is crazy seeing how much Brian and Tracy run around on those days.
Yeah,
It
oh
is
my
crazy.
gosh. Oh my gosh. You're oof. Um kind of in that, that same vein, about WrestleCade. If you could face somebody, any company, because I feel like WrestleCade might be the one place where that could facilitate this.
Mhm.
What is the dream opponent? Any company, any era, who's
Gosh,
standing across the ring from Clara Carter?
it was. I'm so delusional. I thought it was gonna happen. I thought I thought it was gonna be me and Jordan Grace. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh,
I really thought it was. And I would message Brian like every month. I'm like, Brian, Jordan Grace, please, come on. Please just do me a favor. And then Alicia Fox was here and they were like, oh, Jordan Grace, Alicia Fox. I was like, okay. Okay. Okay.
all right, I get it.
And then I would love, and I saw that she has a match at I think WrestleCon, WrestleMania weekend, Mickey James. I
Hmm.
would absolutely love it.
Okay. I mean, those are some solid answers. Um, Very interested in asking you about this because obviously you are a student of Dr. Tom. When I think Dr. Tom, I think Smoky Mountain. When you think Smoky Mountain, you think Jim Cornette. A hot issue right now is the match from a couple weeks ago from AEW Revolution with Mariah and Tony.
Hmm.
Obviously, bloodbath. It was not your stereotype or prototypical women's match.
Hmm.
Um, the internet loved it as they do. Jim Cornette absolutely hated it. He thinks it's an embarrassment to wrestling and so on and so forth. Being under the Dr. Tom learning tree, what do you think about that match in particular? And then to kind of go off of that, maybe the blood and guts being introduced into women's wrestling a little bit more these days. How do you feel about it?
I see both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because Doc always told us to, he said he doesn't like seeing women bleed. And I understand. I understand both sides of it. Because they both two incredibly gorgeous women. You don't want to
Mm-hmm.
see them bleeding, injured, none of that. So I
Right.
understand that part, but I also understand the part of empowering those women because they looked like two badass bitches up there.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
understand both parts, and it's kind of hard because, like, sometimes, like, if I'm doing a hardcore match, I'm like, if Dr. Tom watches it, I gotta, weigh out what I want to get yelled at for and what I don't want to get yelled at for. So I see both sides of it. I don't think there's really like a wrong or right. I just think it's, different flavors of ice cream, as Doc
Yeah.
says. So I don't think it's something to be like up in arms about, but I also don't think it's something that we should be, yeah, more. So
Yeah.
it's just,
Let's maybe keep it as a once in a while type of deal.
yeah,
We
I
don't.
think we definitely do need to keep it special because if it happens like every week, then everyone's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's just like the guys where they were
Yeah.
bleeding, every week on TV.
Hmm.
Um, so I have a fun segment, excuse me, called the Fan's Eye View, where I love to show the guest a picture and just kind of get
Hmm.
the story behind it. I'm so excited to show you this picture because it doesn't really show you in the best light, but it's a good time. So I want to hear the story behind it. I'm gonna throw this up on the screen for everybody. You straight up do not look like you're having a good time.
I'm not. I'm really not.
Can you tell us the story behind this?
Well, I tried to sandbag her and it just didn't work. She's a lot stronger than she looks. She's a hoss.
Yeah,
But yeah, the referee in the background, he trains with us. And
I love that.
I told him he better be on my side and he wasn't. He was not. And Camille, every time I'm in the ring with her, she just beats my ass. So I don't know what's up with that. But
She has that effect on women, I do believe, and men
God.
from time to time.
I go in the gym and I feel like a strong woman, and then I look at Camille and I'm like, damn.
I love that. Well, how many? This wasn't the first time working her, was it?
This was the third.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every time I look at it, poor Clara, just
Anytime. She always
pigtails
has something
flying.
new. Yeah. No
Ah,
respect for me.
bless your heart, you poor thing.
Thank you.
um, one thing that I want to ask you because it's pretty unique to you is what is it like being married to a professional wrestler?
Oh
As
God.
a professional wrestler, I mean, are we talking anarchy? There's hip tosses in the kitchen, or obviously I'm kidding, but with a shoot job and training and wrestling on the weekends,
Hmm.
how hard is it to find that work home balance in a
Hmm.
normal situation? But like I said, with you and your husband both being professional wrestlers, that's got to present some other challenges.
Yeah. So I think that we got very lucky because I didn't go into wrestling thinking I'm gonna find my husband here, and he didn't go into wrestling thinking I'm gonna find my wife here. We just met and we just instantly clicked because his cauliflower years and I grew up doing jujitsu, so we were just hanging out as friend. Like I'm not even joking. He fell in love with me because I complimented his ears. That's exactly why.
Hey,
So
love at first
yeah,
sight.
that's what I'm saying. But it did take us a while to find the work life balance because when we first started dating, he was trained by Josh Gary, and his training is completely different from Dr. Tom's.
Yeah.
So now we train with the Beer City Bruiser, and he trains us the way Harley Race trained him, which
Hmm.
is very similar to the way Dr. Tom trains. So once we transitioned into Bruiser, he started understanding my wrestling point of view better. So we started like our minds started connecting a little bit more when it comes to wrestling because in the beginning we would argue so much about it. He would critique my matches and I'm like, "Bro, shut up. Like don't talk to me." But now we know like if I don't feel good about something, he can just tell by looking at me and he knows he doesn't have to, tell me what I did wrong or what I could do better. So,
Yeah, it's just best to be quiet at that point.
yeah, exactly.
I'm a married man. I get it. Trust me.
Yeah. And then we have the same shoot job. We live together, like we wrestle together, we train together, we go to the gym, we do everything together. It I think it helped that we were friends first
Yeah.
because if we just jumped into it, I would have been like, "Peace out, dude. Like you're crowding me." But I think that you can have a successful relationship in wrestling. You just need to understand that it's a business, and you
Hmm.
have to keep your personal life away from your business life. So there'd be times where like we're arguing or we had a bad night. Like you have to show up to the arena, smile on your face. Don't put your dirty laundry out there,
That's
But
right. There,
Yeah.
because wrestling business is waiting to jump all over that.
Oh man.
And that's a perfect segue. I wanted to ask you, where do you stand on? Some people are like, excuse me, listen to that. Some people are like, I do not want to work with my significant other, whether it be in a mixed match, you versus your husband, or even you teaming up with him.
Mhm.
Where do you stand on that?
I I don't mind. I love wrestling. We tagged together this past weekend at PWF, and it was my favorite match of the weekend. We've wrestled each other a few times too. I'm not the biggest fan of that because he's, a lot bigger
Jacked.
than me. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't want to be thrown around, so.
Yes.
But I personally, I love it. I think that, people, some people struggle working with their significant other like that just because, like, I don't want to sound rude, but like an ego thing, you
Yes.
gotta,
Yeah. Yeah.
you just gotta have fun. Wrestling's fun. So,
That's it. That's right. Yeah, you potato your wife. It's going to be a long week, I do
yeah.
believe. um, to kind of start to bring this thing home, these are like my favorite questions to ask people because like I started this podcast and called it the fans view because like I want people to get to know you guys outside of the ring, like who the real person is in there. And I feel like these really kind of encapsulate that. First, what are you a fan of when you're not wrestling or training or
Mhm.
watching wrestling? When you're away from the ring, what are you a fan of?
Recently, my husband and I have been watching a lot of stand-up comedy.
Love that.
I have two favorites. I don't really care about all the other ones, but Shane Gillis and Theo Vaughn are my absolute favorites.
Love that answer.
Yeah, we've been watching the Kill Tony episodes after training.
Love that
Yeah.
answer. Are you going to be in Vegas WrestleMania weekend?
Oh no.
Oh, I lost you for a second. We're back.
There we go.
I think we're back. Okay.
Yes.
Are you in Vegas WrestleMania weekend?
Yes.
Did you see that Tony actually got announced for like a WWE type?
Yes, I saw that, and one can only assume Shane Gillis is going to be there.
You have to
He's
think. I
got
mean,
to. Yeah,
that is going to be insanity of the highest order.
it's going to be amazing.
um, this is a hard question to ask because I could just generically be like, "What's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?"
Mhm.
But do you have a piece of advice, whether it be wrestling related, marriage advice, just life advice? Do you have a piece that maybe you've gotten over the years that just really resonates with you and it's stuck with you?
Wrestling is supposed to be fun. Wrestling's fun. So when I first started, I would beat myself up so bad if I did something wrong, if something didn't go the way I wanted it to, if a girl was mean, and I would like it's very easy to get bitter in this business,
Yeah,
but you just have to remember wrestling's fun. Wrestling was here before you, it will be here after you. So just try to make it better while you're in it. Bruiser tells us that all the time. He says, make wrestling better than it was when you first got into it. Um, so, yeah, just have fun because there's a lot of mean people, unfortunately, and there's a lot of mean girls and there's a lot of egos. But if you go in with the mindset to make your opponent look like $1,000,000, they should have the same mindset, and then you'll have a beautiful, amazing match.
I love that. Keep wrestling fun. That
Mhm.
I love that. Last but not least, here's where we get all deep and emotional on you. What do you at this point of your life, like you said, you're successful. I deem you very successful
Mhm.
in the wrestling
Thank you.
business. You know, you're a married woman, happily married woman. You know, things seem to be going pretty well for you. What do you consider success at this point?
Gosh, success to me was always living without regret. I don't want to be older and think, oh, if I would have just done this, if I would have just done this. So to me, even if obviously everybody's biggest goal WWE,
Yeah,
if I don't make it, at least I know I gave it my best shot. I was trained by the two absolute greatest trainers in the world. I did my absolute best in the gym. I did my best in every match I had. I'm happy right now. I have a phenomenal husband, a phenomenal family. I have two beautiful cats that my husband hates, but
love
happy
it.
wife, happy life. So it don't
That's
matter.
preach.
Success to me would just be just happiness and being content,
I,
honestly.
lo- I love that. And just leaving
Hmm.
professional wrestling maybe a little bit better than you found it.
That's
I,
right.
I love that. Clara, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Where
Thank
can people
you.
get a hold of you on socials?
Mhm.
And what upcoming dates do you have coming up? What do you got going on?
On all my social media, I am at Clara Wrestling. I don't really, people get mad at me because they're like, we want to know more about Clara the person. And I'm like, well, I just don't like social media that much.
Hey, we're
So I'll
protecting the
post,
gimmick, brother. We're
right, I'll
protecting the
post,
gimmick.
exactly. I'll post match highlights, stuff like that. My husband will post more about us. So if you want to see more of that, go to him. Then I'll just share it if he remembers to tag me. Um, but at Clara Wrestling everywhere this weekend. I think I only have Bell to Bell on Saturday, which is in New Jersey at the Monster Factory. And then I don't know where I'm at next weekend. It will be in my calendar, and I will share the poster
There
on my
you
social
go.
media.
Make sure to follow her on all the socials: Facebook,
Yes.
X,
Yep.
Instagram, all
Hmm.
that fun jazz. Go show Clara some love. And if you want to know the real Clara, just watch this episode. And if you
Exactly.
can't watch it, go listen to it on Spotify and Apple
Hmm.
Podcasts, or just do it all. Whatever you want
Hmm.
to do. No pressure.
No.
Just look for the resting bitch face and it's
Hmm.
all good.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, Clara, we love you here at the Fans View. I'm so glad that we could finally do this. And hopefully we can have you on again, maybe come WrestleCade time.
I would love to. This would honestly, I'm not even, I hope other podcasts don't watch this. This is the most fun I've had. I'm not even gonna lie.
Well, I love it. I'm so glad we could have a few laughs tonight. I know, like I said,
Yes.
I know you're a busy lady, so
Mhm.
I appreciate it. Everybody,
Thank
like I
you.
said earlier, make sure to go show Clara some love. If you can't get out to New Jersey, follow her. It's free.
Yeah.
X, Facebook, Instagram. Go show her some love. Buy some merch. Whatever, guys. But until next week, guys, this is Jarrett signing off. We want to thank Clara for her time. And don't forget, most importantly of all, don't forget to call your mom.
Yes. Thank you.